Do you want to learn how to become a real estate photographer? Check out my course, How to Become a Real Estate Photographer, at rickmcevoyphotography.com. Ever wondered why your photos don't look as good as the scene you were taking a picture of? What went wrong? What can you do? What's the problem? Well, the answer isn't a shiny new camera, it's not a big fancy lens, and it's not an expensive trip somewhere hot and swanky. No, this problem could simply be fixed by a few simple editing adjustments that can make a huge difference to any photo. These tips will make your photos look better, they'll make your photos pop, and they'll hopefully give you what you are trying to capture and recreate. That's the most important point of this. We take photographs of things for a reason, don't we, dear listener? Yes, we do. These things will make the best of what you've captured. Yes, today, dear listener, we're diving deep into 7 steps that will take your flat photos and make them look great. You'll learn how to quickly get the most out of your images without spending a fortune on gear, travel or software, or by spending a ton of time on editing, because we don't want to do that. No, we don't. These are simple but effective tips, simple adjustments to your workflow, which will help you create better photos. And if you're struggling with your editing workflow, this will get you going. So it's all good stuff. Well, I would say that, wouldn't I? But before I go any further, I do need to say this. The aim is always to start with a great photo, a great image capture. If a photo's rubbish, no amount of editing will turn it into a great photo. So this is not about making rubbish photos look great. If a photo's rubbish, get rid of it, delete it, you don't need it. No, I'm talking here about taking the best photo you can capture to the next level. These are easy enough adjustments to make that will give you massive returns in the quality of your work. And these tips are the things that any serious photographer does, in their own unique way, of course. I'm not saying everybody does what I do, but this is pretty much what I do. Spoiler alert for the end. And this is what I do. I only edit to enhance what's already there, what I've captured. I want to make what I've photographed look the best I can. Now, you might not agree with this, and that's fine, but this is all I do. Yes, this is a subject for much debate, not one I'm going to get into. And that debate is this: how much editing is okay or not okay? Like I say, not one for me, not one for a future episode. I know what I do, and I'm happy with that. Right, hello, welcome to episode 219, blimey, of the Photography Explained podcast. And this episode is titled, Why Your Photos Look Flat and How to Fix Them. A very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Rick. Hi. And in each episode, I try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English, in less than 27 minutes-ish, without the irrelevant details. Yes, really. I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience, which I share with you in my splendid podcast. How utterly splendid. Okay, let's get into this. 7 editing tips that will make your photos pop. These tips will simplify how you think about editing and help you achieve fantastic results without being a digital wizard. I'm not, of course I'm not, which will be no surprise to you. Okay, tip 1, the foundation: crop, straighten, verticalize. I think verticalize is a word. This is where every edit should start. Even the best photos can often be quickly improved by a quick crop. You're not just making the image smaller, you're refining the composition. Make the subject matter the star of the show by cropping in if you need to. And get rid of anything on the edges that distracts from your main subject. Did you get a slightly crooked horizon? That's an easy fix. Use the straighten tool to get that horizon straight, or that building level. This is very important. No one wants a sloping horizon, do they? Of course not. And once you got things level, fix the verticals so everything is as it should be. This simple act of tidying up the frame and technical correction of horizontals and verticals Just these things on their own can have a big impact and give your photo a clean, professional, high-quality look and feel. And that's what we're after, isn't it, dear listener? And just going back there, do the horizontals first and then the verticals. So get everything level before you look at the verticals, because if you do it the other way around, you might get yourself into a bit of a pickle. Oh, pickle comes up later. Tip 2, true colours, correcting white balance. White balance is a fundamental starting point of every colour photo. White balance tells your camera what white should look like, or what it thinks a correct white does look like. And this can change all the other colours in the image. Now, use auto white balance and you're expecting your camera to figure all this out for you. Who'd do that, eh? I would, don't worry. Mixed lighting, or a scene with a massively dominant single colour, can give you an incorrect white balance. Shoot in RAW though, and you can change this later, which is nice. So, assuming you've used auto white balance and the colours don't look right, what do? Simple, do this. Find a neutral grey or white object in your photo and use the eyedropper tool and click on that neutral thing. Boom, suddenly all your colours will hopefully look natural and true to life. This is a game changer for portraits, food photography, landscapes. Well, it's a game changer for any photo. It doesn't matter what you're taking a photograph of. You have to get the white balance correct to begin with. You might want to do something funky later, but you've got to get to the correct starting point for any photograph. And even better, you can include that neutral grey in your photo. All you need to do, get a grey card, put it in the photo, and you can use that to get your white balance pretty much nailed every time. And if you want to know more about grey cards, check out episode 216, Essential Accessories for Every Photographer Without Breaking the Bank, for much more on this incredibly useful accessory, the good old humble grey card. Now, I think I need to cover white balance in a separate episode, so I'm going to put that on the list for 2026. 2026, where did that come from? Blimey, time's flying, isn't it? Tip 3, the next step, adjusting exposure. This is just a quick adjustment, this. Now, if you've got a photo and it looks a bit dark and dull, or it's far too bright, then you've got your exposure wrong. If your photo is too bright, it's overexposed. If it's too dark, it's underexposed. But don't just rely on the main exposure slider. This is simply making a photo lighter or darker by giving you a linear adjustment of the exposure. Slide to the left, you make the photo darker. Slide to the right, you make the photo lighter. So you start there with the global adjustment, but you know that there's more that you're going to do. There's more refinement. So this is about getting the general photo to the correct exposure if you haven't done so in camera. Once you've done that, you can move on to the more specific adjustments, which on Lightroom are highlights, shadows, whites and blacks. But there's something I do before that, and it's this. Tip 4, the secret to depth, boosting contrast. In photography, contrast is the visual difference between the brightest and darkest tones in an image. Now, I boost the contrast of every photo that I take, and I hadn't really thought about this until I wrote this episode. I never leave the contrast at 0. No, contrast is what gives a photo its punch. Without contrast, a photo looks flat and washed out. By boosting the contrast, you make your blacks blacker and your whites whiter, and this adds depth and drama and interest to a photo. Now, don't go overboard with all these things. Too much is too much. And a well-adjusted contrast slider can instantly turn a flat, boring photo into a vibrant, compelling image. And have a look at the histogram while you're doing this, because you want to make sure you're clipping your whites or your blacks, which means losing all the detail in either of these areas, either of these ends of the tonal range. And I'd never thought about that either with contrast until I was writing this episode. So I had to play with this in Lightroom, and yes, if you go too far with the contrast, you can clip the blacks and the whites in a photo. Now, clipping, that's the term that I'm going to add to my list of stupid photography terms. I'm collating a list for the next episode, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out episode 168, 31 stupid photography terms that don't make sense. anymore. And then episode 169, 11 more stupid photography terms that don't make sense. And episode 170, stupid photography terms that don't make sense. Yes, I spoke so much about these things, they went over 3 episodes, and clipping is being added to the next one. Right, that's clipping done. And I mentioned histograms before as well. If you want to learn about histograms, check out episode 114. What is a histogram and how can it help us when we shoot? And you can learn more about this simple chart that helps us to transform our photos. And you can also listen to episode 164, which, not going to lie to you, I completely forgot about it. And that is titled Understanding Histograms in Photography. Right, move on, Rick. Tip 5, adding dimension, highlights and shadows, and a little bit more. So when you set your exposure and your contrast, it's time to refine the image using the highlights and shadows sliders. By reducing the highlights, you can bring back detail in bright areas like a bright sky or a white wedding dress. And by lifting the shadows, you can reveal hidden details in the darker parts of an image, like, say, the textures in a dark suit or the leaves on a tree. This is a fantastic way to add more dimension to your images. And for an architectural photo, this is about getting the detail back. I'll pull the highlights down to bring back the clouds in a bright sky, and I'll lift the shadows to reveal the beautiful textures in brick or stone that might be in shadow. And if you use Lightroom or other similar photo editing software, this is all non-destructive editing. You can go back and change any adjustment at any time. It's amazing. Now, it didn't always used to be like that, so we need to remember sometimes how lucky we are to have these amazing tools. And another thing you can do, rather than just sliding down the highlights to bring back some of the detail or bringing up the shadows to bring some of the detail in there, slide the other way and see what happens. You've got nothing to lose because, like I say, it's all non-destructive, reversible stuff. And then in Lightroom certainly, and I'm sure with other editing software, there are further adjustments which include setting the white point and the black point, or moving these sliders. I like to set the white point and the black point and then see if I want to tweak it from there. This is all visual stuff, by the way, dear listener. And then there's further refinement in the tone curve, which I use every now and then. It's a step of refinement too far for me. I'm not that refined, clearly. Okay, tip 6, the power of colour, saturation and vibrance. Now that you've got your light and dark tones sorted, it's time to think about colour. A common mistake is to just boost the main saturation slider. Now, saturation is the intensity of colour. If you push it too far, your photos can very quickly look unnatural, and if you keep on going, cartoonish even. A better tool is vibrance. Vibrance selectively boosts the less saturated colours in your image, leaving the already vibrant ones alone. And this gives you a much more natural looking result, making colours pop without looking over the top. A small boost in vibrance can bring a photo to life. Boost saturation and you can make the skin look odd. Vibrance doesn't do this. And there's a further level of refinement in Lightroom. I touched on it earlier. Using the colour mixer, you can boost the saturation and luminance of individual colours within an image. This is such an important tool to me. It's so good it deserves an episode all of its own, and yes, I've added that to my list. And this is where I boost saturation of specific colours. In the colour mixer, you can adjust the saturation, the luminance, and the hue of individual colours. You select one of those 3 tabs, and then all you do is click on the colour you want to change and slide up or down, or to left or right. I can't remember now. I haven't got Lightroom open. And you can watch the magic happen. This is the only technique I use to boost the saturation. A measured increase in saturation can make specific colours like the red in the flower or the blue of the sky truly stand out. It's specific colours to specific amounts. Very, very powerful and a very subtle refinement tool, which I love. Tip 7, the finishing touches, sharpening. You sharpen every photo. That is just the way it is. Sharpening brings out the detail and texture in your photos that you need to bring out, and this will make your images look crisp and clear. But if you use too much sharpening, you can also bring out noise, which looks like a grainy texture, especially in the dark areas of your photos. You can make a photo look artificial and you can get artifacts, and none of these are good things. If you don't use enough sharpening, your image isn't sharp. It's got soft detail. It just doesn't look sharp. That's the best way of putting it, so I don't need to come out with another way of saying it, do I? No, you don't. So you got to find a balance. It's somewhere in the middle. It's more than zero, but it's not all the way to the right. So what you can do, whack it all the way to the right and then bring it back to the left until it looks perfect. You can use a little bit of sharpening to help make your photo pop. And getting back to the beginning of this tip, I sharpen every photo before I issue it, publish it, or do something with it outside of my PC. That's every photo. Yes, dear listener, every photo needs some sharpening unless the technology has advanced since I got my last camera. So there you have it, 7 essential tips you can use to sort your flat-looking photos. And when you get to tip 7, it doesn't mean that you can't go back to the beginning and do further tweaking. But be careful doing that, you don't want to spend forever tweaking. With a bit of practice, you'll find that your first pass gets you 80 to 90% there, which quite often is good enough for me. Right, final thoughts and takeaways. Well, these are the most important points. 1. Crop and then sort out verticals and horizontals to give yourself the best starting point. 2. Sort the white balance so you get the colours right. 3. Sort the exposure. 4. Boost the contrast. 5. Add more range to the tones. 6. Get the best out of the colours that you have. And finally 7. Sharpen to polish the finished look. I do these 7 things to every photo and not much more. And finally, editing photos is not cheating. It's what we photographers do with every photo that we do something with. Talking of cheating, check out seamless link, Rick. Episode 92, is editing photos cheating? Well, is it? Well, what do you think? For more on this, the answer's no, by the way. Right, here's something for you to do, dear listener. Take a copy of an image you've already edited, reset all the adjustments, and do these 7 things. And I promise you, you will see a massive difference. Well, I hope you will. The goal is a subtle edit that makes people say, what a beautiful photo, not, wow, what a great edit, or even worse, hey, you must be amazing at Photoshop. No offense, Adobe, but I don't ever want anybody saying that about one of my photos. So have a go, try the 7 things, and please, dear listener, let me know how you get on. What if I use a phone to take my photos? The cameras on modern phones are fantastic, but they often struggle in certain lighting conditions. Adjusting the exposure and contrast is a great way to improve your phone photos. And there are dozens of free and powerful editing apps available for your phone. The principles are the same whether you're using a phone or a big camera. At the end of the day, we're adjusting a photo, which is a digital interpretation of light. That's all it is. Okay, what do I do? As well as what I've already told you, here's a couple of other bits. I compose so I don't need to crop. And I didn't know I was doing this until it was pointed out to me when I was having my first portfolio critique. A scary occasion that was, but a successful one. But I will still see if a crop's going to improve things, but I'd say 95% of the time a crop is not required for my photos, which is nice. I've eliminated a step in the processing by taking the photo in a certain considered way. And I shoot in RAW so all my photos look flat before I edit them, and this is meant to be the case with RAW, much less so with JPEG, which is a format where images are edited at the point of image capture in the camera. So RAW photos are meant to look dull and flat until you do something with them. JPEG photos look a lot better. But with a RAW photo, there's more data for you to work with. I should have done an episode on RAW photos. Oh, I did. I just can't remember the number. Shall I have a look? To find out more about the difference between RAW and JPEG photos, check out episode 194. What is the difference between RAW and JPEG photos? Good title, Rick. And I also use a grey card, which I mentioned earlier. I don't need to plug that episode again. And I include this in every interior photo I take. See, when I'm shooting indoors, I need to get the colours absolutely right, and they will vary from room to room with the internal lighting. So this is what I do. I include the grey card in the first photo that I take, and I can use that white balance for all the other photos taken with similar lighting. So if I photograph in a lounge, then a dining room, then a kitchen, I'll do the white balance in the lounge, and I can use that in the dining room. But in the kitchen, I've probably got different lights, so I'll take another photo in the kitchen when the lights changed. And that's how it works, and 99 times out of 100, that's white balance done. And oh yeah, and I do these 7 things to every photo, and that's every photo, and not a great deal more. Right, one more thing. A good edit should never be obvious. The best post-processing is the kind you don't even notice. And another thing, the best photo to edit is a well-shot photo. Editing can't save a rubbish photo, so remember to still get your basics right in camera and get the best composition and the best technical image capture that you can every time. If you take a rubbish photo, editing will not make it a good photo. It will still be a rubbish photo. Okay? Forgive me for repeating myself there, but it's a very important point. Get the photo right when you take it. Don't try and make it right after. Right, some thoughts from the last episode. Well, it was a bit of a disaster, really. It wasn't in the end, but getting there was a disaster. See, this episode should have been the last episode. So what happened? Well, I tried getting ahead of myself, and I wrote 4 episodes with the plan of recording them all in one go, then editing them all, and having December off. But it didn't go well. I had all sorts of technical issues on the morning set aside for my mass recording session. Episode 218 was unusable, and I found myself away on business with only episode 219 to edit, but with episode 218 due out next. So I had to do a quick switcheroo, and here we are now, all good and back to normal. Next episode, episode 220, The Photographer's Eye. See a great photo before you take it. And yes, I will talk about a book that I bought quite a few years ago, but still have with the very same title, and that's a complete coincidence, by the way. Get in touch and subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and I really hope you have. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future ones. And for anything else, check out my website, rickmcavoyphotography.com, where you can find out how to ask a question, get a weekly email from me, get in touch, or find out more about my splendid podcast. And you can text me directly from the podcast feed. And I've got a YouTube channel too. Just type Rick McEvoy into YouTube and you'll find me in there somewhere talking away. And finally, I promise, check out my courses page where you'll find my splendid How to Become a Real Estate Photographer course. Okay, this episode was brought to you by a cheese and pickle sandwich with a bit of ham in it. Yes, ham. Ham and cheese and pickle and mayo. That's outrageous, isn't it? I did wonder as I was eating it, thinking, I wish it was just cheese. And a Coke Zero, which I had consumed before settling into my homemade acoustically cushioned recording emporium. I've been Rick McEvoy. Thanks again very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast, it says here, and for giving me 27-ish minutes of your valuable time. Now I reckon this episode will be about 23 minutes long after editing out the mistakes and bad stuff. Thanks for listening. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick. How to become a real estate photographer. rickmcavoyphotography.com/courses.